A 15-year-old boy named Seastian Rogers was in his bedroom after a fun day out with his mum and relatives. Mum was on the phone to her husband, Chris Proudfoot, for apparently 3 hours, and at some point Katie heard a noise in Sebastian's room telling him to go to bed. At 12 p.m, Katie puts the dogs to bed and goes to bed herself, and in the morning Katie wakes up, walks into Sebastian's room, noticing that he was not there. She called her husband Chris Proudfoot and then called the sheriff's office. This is where the story starts, and from there, where do we go? Who do we look at? And why did he leave? What do you think happened to Seastian Rogers? Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Emma, you're at Crime Stories Obsessed. We're going to be talking today again about Seastian Rogers. I think this is the first live I've done on Sebastian, so we've got loads to talk about. We've also got some guests coming on tonight as well, if they are able to make it. So as we know, Sebastian is an autistic boy. He's 15 years of age and he went missing, and an Amber Alert was issued for him on February the 26th. He lived on Stafford Court in Hendersonville with his mother, Katie Proudfoot, and her husband, so his stepfather, Christopher Proudfoot. But apparently he disappeared with no shoes in the middle of the night. I've got a guest in the backstage. Hello, hi.
Hello.
Christine. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm cooking supper. I have hungry kids, so I apologize in advance.
It's okay. So we're just saying about Sebastian going missing in the middle of the night. Apparently, his mum heard a bang but didn't go and check on him. And apparently, she was having a 3-hour call with her husband. Who has a 3-hour call with their husband on a nighttime? Now, I was in a relationship for 11 years and I wasn't on the phone for 11 hours. So to me personally, I mean, I just think that's like a control thing. Like, was he worried that she was going to be doing something when he wasn't there, and he needed to know what she was doing at all times? You know, did he have to call her every night for 3 hours just to make sure she was home? Like, I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't know what do you think about that, Christina? Why do you think she was on the phone for 3 hours?
Well, I reached out to a channel creator, Bot Riot, brand. I'm sorry, and he said that a possibility is if Chris Proudfoot had any knowledge of phone triangulate, like
Triangulate.
burner phone. Yeah, I can't say that word. Sorry.
It's okay.
He could produce himself and Katie a alibi. Like we're on
Oh,
be in
yeah.
one location and it's hitting the tower where Memphis is or wherever, and in the time frame of the missing time gaps of Katie, she does not provide a time frame of, okay, we went to the store and then later we went bowling and then we went to dinner.
Yeah. But then wouldn't it be a planned event between the two of them at that point? Because if they were doing that for an alibi for him, say he like left it on call and then drove back, leaving his phone there, giving him an alibi kind of thing that he was there when he wasn't, it was his phone that was there. And then he drove back. That would have had to have been something that they were both aware of at that point, wouldn't it?
Or he helped her create an alibi for her time frame. Hey, pull into the house and I'll come pick you up. Or, I mean, that's just what I would say.
I just think it's weird. But by the way, I like your top. I think that's probably the best top I've seen. Like the best hoodie I've seen. I really like that one. Don't know where you got it from, but it's great. Love it.
Bonfire.
Everybody check out the link in the homepage, okay?
warmest hoodie I've ever worn. And I'm not a hoodie person, but I saw this one and I just had to have it at Christmas. So I bought it for my birthday, and it's fleece on the inside, real soft, and I love it. I mean, I usually wear like
it's really nice
in the house in wintertime, but with this hoodie,
it's lovely. I wanted to ask you something else, Christina. What do you think if you had a child that age, which I think your children are just slightly younger, you had a child that age and you heard a bang in their room, wouldn't you go in there to check it out?
Given the fact that she stated she had dogs, they didn't bark. That
is weird.
And especially if she was on the phone at that time, or if you got woke up. Yeah, I would definitely be like, I mean, I have kids 11 years old, and anytime I hear something out of the ordinary, I'm going to think, did my toddler get hurt, or did something fall, or I'll be honest.
Yeah, you're going to wonder what on earth's going on, especially if you're on one floor as well. Like,
I mean, it's going to cause an alarm in the middle of the night. You're not expecting it. It's going to startle you, no matter who you are. I mean, so yeah, I would think I would go check. It's kind of odd that she did not even think that was remotely strange.
Yeah. Well, I've got for you guys, I've got some video clips, I've got some audio, I've got all sorts going on tonight with Seth, with Chris, that we're going to have a little listen to, and something that's going to make one of them look really bad, which I don't know if you've seen or not, but we're going to check that out. So yeah, big bang in the middle of the night. She doesn't go to check. She's on the call. She's on this call for 3 hours. Don't know what they were talking about because they're married. I don't know what they have to talk. I honestly don't know. It's one of the two as far as me personally is concerned. It's either an alibi or it's a control thing where like he has to know where she is, what she's doing, and if he's on the call with her, he knows she's not doing anything. It's like makes him feel better if he's on call with her. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Let me know in the comment section. I'm reading them as they go past. What do you think, Christina?
Crane. I go back to that crane. And that was something else I was concerned about.
What was that?
If he was at work when he states he was, to rule him, I'm not accusing Chris whatsoever, but to rule out his alibi, even though he says he didn't need to take the polygraph, a good cop would at least verify, okay, you say you're at work. There's a security officer. There's cameras. There are people. Was he the only person at the job site?
But Christina, it's 50 odd days now. If they haven't already done that, is this camera footage still available? That's what I mean. If they didn't do this in the beginning because they've gone with like, oh, it's just a missing kid, he's run off, kind of thing. And they've not checked these things. Some of these roll over, some of these camera footage roll over after every week or month or whenever.
Exactly. And if he's on that crane, I question, does he have a headset? Because when I don't know how, if you're familiar with cranes, but they're very precise machinery. You have to be certified. You have to have a permit. You can't I can't be trained in a day. You have to go.
But this was on a night time though, Christina. I don't know if he will have been working at that time. I think it was like 10 o'clock at night, wasn't it? And he was talking till 12 p.m. So I don't think he'll have been working then. I'm not sure.
Well, he claims at the time Sebastian went missing, he was on the job. What time the shift was, I'm just, like I said, we weren't provided a time frame of events for this crime or for this disappearance by law enforcement. So you have to just go by what they are saying. I'm just going by what Chris said, but I apologize. I didn't see what time he said. If he's on the phone with her, but is he at the campsite or is he at work? If he's at work, I can't imagine him being on the phone for 3 hours. But if he's at the campsite,
it's a bit weird, isn't it? You've been in a long-term relationship. Would you be on the phone for 3 hours?
no. But brand new relationship, possibly. But no.
No.
Especially if maybe I could see even an hour.
Yeah.
If you haven't been talking to him and you haven't seen him all day and you've been gone. I imagine Katie would have been tired. So I can't see why she would have been studying for her test, like she said, on the
While
phone.
she's on the phone. Yeah.
And she's got to get up. She's got to go to school. I mean, Sebastian's got to go to school. So the
Just sounds weird. It just sounds weird. Yeah.
Out of the ordinary. I only know of one couple that has ever talked on the phone for 3 hours, but they're not just talking on the phone. They're like, got family members hanging out, talking on the phone. They're passing this phone around.
Yeah. Then that you could imagine, couldn't you? But so the other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that Seth, now I did make a video on this and I don't know if you've seen it, guys, but Seth, as you might already know, was supposedly going to live with his father, but he'd lived with his mother all of his life. So many were asking why he was going to live with his father. Well, apparently, according to Seth had told someone, and we heard from the person he said this to, that Seth had been talking to Chris and they'd been discussing things, and Chris had said, look, I'm struggling here. Our marriage is like on the rocks, meaning him and Katie. If we don't do something about it, we're going to end up getting a divorce. You need to take Sebastian. And of course, Seth jumped at the chance to take Sebastian, and it was apparently agreed. And I made a video about that. I just think it's weird that his mum would be just so happily willing to just give up her child to the father after she's brought him up since he was born, to the father, just like that, because her marriage was suffering. I mean, was he going over there to stay just for like a few weeks until things got better? But then we also found out as well that Seth had gone to school and told the teachers that his dad had hurt him, that his dad had hit him or something. And I think that caused some kind of CPS case. And whether that caused a lot of tension in the house between him and Katie, I think they were arguing a lot about Sebastian. And that's why Sebastian was going to live with his father. That's kind of the gist that I got from it. What do you think about that, Christina?
Well, there has been reports of that, but I know in the beginning, Chris had stated he had an open CPS case, but it was in opposite state, and he was trying to get it sealed. But as we all know, everything that Chris says has been opposite. So I'm not really sure. I have no doubt that their marriage was on the rocks. I mean, we did listen to the prior Chris's ex, Nina. I have no doubt, you know.
Yeah. Somebody is saying in chat, it's Robin. Robin is saying in chat that she thought it was supposed to be 50-50, 50% with Seth and 50% with Katie. That might have been the case. I'm not quite sure. You might know more than me, Robin. I've seen you about on Facebook. I think you're on Facebook more than I am because, but maybe that was the case. Maybe he was supposed to be going back and forth just to ease up a little bit at home. But I do think there were things going on that we will discuss in a bit, and I do have a video to play for you. But they apparently all remain cooperative with authorities. They're all still talking, like I think we had a situation with the Summer Wells case where the parents just stopped helping out law enforcement. They stopped speaking. They lawyered up. And I mean, it really does make you look bad when you do that. I mean, we're all entitled to do that, of course, and we don't have to speak out, but by speaking out, we're helping to try and find our missing child, aren't we? And they are still cooperating. Everybody's talking. But yeah, Chris was apparently saying that the relationship was struggling, and so Seth had agreed to take Sebastian. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention is the fact that there was apparently no camera footage, no cameras in the house, despite the fact that she was an electrician for a company that fitted security systems. And apparently, now I don't know if this is true, but I did hear somebody say on another channel that when you work for a company like that, as like when you join, they automatically allow you to fit a full security system at home as part of the package. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you've heard that, guys. But if that is the case, then did they have cameras but they just weren't on? Or did they not have any cameras at all? That's a question that I still haven't had an answer to. I don't know. But the only camera footage I think there has been is from a neighbor, and that showed some lights, like somebody had a torch or something around the house. But I just don't see how he would just leave the house. From what we've been told from the parents from both sides, first of all, he wouldn't go anywhere without shoes. And second of all, I can't understand why he would just disappear out of the house in the middle of the night, in the dark, on his own, unless he'd been locked outside and told it was a punishment. And he got bored standing there and decided to try and walk to his dad's, for instance, or something. But we would have found him by now, surely. Somebody would have seen him. But yeah, and then we've had all this arguing online initially at first between the parents, going back and forth. I think Seth said, and I'm going to play you the video now because I've got it. Well, I think I've got it more as audio, but I'm going to play it for you. Oh, thank you. I can't pronounce that name. What is it? PR. I can't say that. Oh, why'd you have to give me a name like that? I can't pronounce it. It says, I looked up city ordinance for Memphis, and construction is prohibited on Sundays, allowed 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturdays. You're right. Chris couldn't have been working. Right. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Thank you. Thank you for that super chat. So he couldn't have been working. Right, I'm going to play this audio because I think you've probably all heard of it, but we're going to play it.
Hey, Chris Proudfoot, if you're listening to this, you can't hold that over my head. I told you. You're going to piss me the fuck off, and I don't give a fuck who knows. It's your fault. It's your and your wife's fault. You guys don't deserve to be around kids.
So that's what that's something that was said last week by Seth towards Katie and Chris, and that is his true inner feelings towards the pair. They were the last ones to have him there. They were the last ones to see him, and he must feel frustrated that his son's gone. He doesn't know where the hell he is, and Katie was supposed to be looking after him. So I mean, I would probably be thinking the same if it was the other way around, but they have apparently squashed things. They are apparently friendly at the minute. Now, I do have a photo here that I'm going to put on the screen for you. And this, a lot of you, the comments were interesting, actually. Let me get it. Okay, where is it? Here, is this it? Right, so it's not very good photo here. Can't really see it very well, but basically it's the photo where Chris is approaching Seth's vehicle and he gets really close to him, and it's to me, I don't know about you guys when you looked at it, but he just looked a bit too close for comfort there. He was either whispering something to him, but there was no one that close, or they were having words. Now, I did hear, and I don't know if this is true, that they were having words. They were, when they first saw each other, I think this was at the vigil, I'm not sure. I can't really remember where it was they saw each other, but apparently there were swear words, there was carrying on, and then they started talking, and now they're okay, and they're like communicating in order to help the investigation. I don't know what you think about that. It has ruffled a lot of feathers because apparently, and I'm not going to play it on here, but Seth did put out a statement saying everybody can just F off. We're working together now to try and find Sebastian. Sebastian is all that matters. And if everybody out there will just F off. Well, that ruffled a lot of feathers because a lot of people were really looking for Sebastian. There were search parties out there. There were people upset. There were people sending money, towards this fund or whatever it is to help find Sebastian. And so it ruffled a lot of feathers. And I did see a lot of comments online about that. I could see a lot of people upset. Now, what are your thoughts, guys, and Christina, on why they could be now working together?
Well, I have a different take on things because in any investigation that I do, I stay neutral. You have to be clear-headed. You cannot get personally attached. You have to take the emotion out of an investigation because once your judgment gets clouded, you get tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have a lot of history, personal angst, and a lot of tension. But at the end of the day, these are the last people to see Sebastian, especially Katie. That's where my heart goes. And I think of this case. She's the heart and soul of this case. Everything relies on her memory, her knowledge. So
Yeah.
if I'm Steph, I'm going to have to make nice to get the answers. Even if I don't like it personally, that's not for me. I would want to help Sebastian. We, as a crime sleuth, we work for Sebastian. We're for the victim. We will help any parent, whether we feel they're guilty. That's not for us to decide. Our job is to help them locate their kid. We don't have to personally go out and be BFFs. That's how I feel.
So, I mean, when the first thing I thought about when I heard they were now working together, the very first thing I thought about was they've been told to. Seth's been told to. He's been told to get close. That was my very first thought that came into my head. I don't know what you think about that.
I can agree with that. I mean, whether they were told to, or Chris, who seems very narcissistic, gets online and talks to people about his image. He seems wrapped up in how he's being viewed. I think you guys mentioned that he had privatized their Facebook, but he was still going into some chats. So to me, Chris seems like if you're not going to tell him what to do. But I did another creator that Steph went on that Chris actually came to him at the visual for Sebastian and asked him, "Hey, let's bury the hatchet. Let's work together." That was out of Chris. That was out of Steph's own words. But how all that transpired and came to be, I don't know.
No.
They decided, hey, we're not getting anywhere, or like you said, good possibility. Hey, we're going to become suspects if we don't start doing something. Maybe him and Katie decided, hey, let's not be.
Yeah.
But things,
I agree.
I
mean, we've got a comment here from Harley Dragon's Moon. I just love that name. She said, I do have a question, though. Why do they still have all of Sebastian's electronics? And what are the electronics? And why have they not been given back to anyone yet? Well, I mean, Chris and Katie did say that he didn't speak to anyone. He had no way of speaking to anyone, but he did have all these. He did love his games, and I'm sure there's different ways, isn't there, of communicating online these days, especially if you've got Wi-Fi, which you would need to play a lot of these games anyway. I don't know. Do you know what? My first thought when this case occurred and I heard that he was missing, all I'd had was very vague information about the case because I think I was covering something else. My very, very first thought was that there was some kids somewhere, whether it be in the street or at school, that didn't like him, made fun of him because he was autistic, and made a plan to come round to the house, knock on his window, get him out there, or plan to come round and meet up with him, pretending to be his friends and do something. I mean, we've heard of very similar cases before where people have been enticed out of the house. That was just my very first thought before I heard any of the information from the parents. I don't know. What do you think about that? Or given what you've heard about the family, do you now think that that's completely out of the question?
Is that aimed at me?
Yeah. What do you think? Is that a possibility?
You know, I'm like you. When this case first broke, we had just come out of the Soto case, Madeline Soto case.
Mm.
And the case before that was another tough one, and it was Audrey Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those parents were not present in the kids' life, except had custody issues. And then the perpetrators are not blood related to them. And it's like, so when the Stats Rogers case came about, it was that immediate thought, God, please don't be another case where the parents are involved.
Oh, I know.
And then I didn't really think much about the case until it went a week, and then I saw like they still haven't found that kid, because I have an autistic stepson and he is 26 years old. But what these autistic kids do is they elope when they get educated. And so when it came about that I heard he was autistic, I did think that, hey, maybe he ran off because he was being bullied. Maybe he was going to be found.
Yeah.
But I would have never guessed no evidence of foul play, no evidence to suggest a location, a direction. We don't even have a clear direction from the dogs, the sniff dogs.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to put a picture on the screen now, and this just made me giggle, and I know it shouldn't, but it did. I've got to be honest. What do you think to this, Christina?
I love that. Is Nancy Grace. I love Nancy.
She's so, honestly, she takes no crap, does she? At all. And she had them on. She had Nancy Grace was covering the case of Sebastian. And I don't know if you've watched it, but she was interviewing Chris Proudfoot and Katie, Sebastian's mum and stepdad. And she said, have you done a polygraph? And Chris said, well, no, I've not done one. And I think he was basically making out, because I was over in, is it Mississippi? I wouldn't need one, because I was there. Like we were talking about the alibi situation earlier on. I was over there. So she said, okay, then, well, if I arrange one for you, will you do it? Kind of put him on the spot, really. And he was like, came back with a very quick answer of, you plan it, I'll be there, basically. And so she gets back to him with, okay, so we've arranged this polygraph. We need you to be there, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, I can't do it now because I spoke to the TBI or Sheriff's Office, whoever it was. TBI, I think it was. TBI, and they've said that they're going to do one. So I just knew that was going to happen. But it was the way she put him on the spot. And I just found that, you know, quite funny. Apparently, Seth has also done a polygraph, or he attempted to do a polygraph, but I don't know if he's actually done one. Somebody said he fell asleep whilst they were supposedly doing a polygraph, and then there were people saying, oh, it was because he was taking medication. There were people saying, oh, it's because he's tired, you know, because of all the searching and everything. I don't know. I'm not on anybody's side here. I know people have been taking sides, as in I'm on Seth's side. I was standing with Seth, but I don't know really. Things have changed. I've heard new information, and so I'm just going to sit on the fence and watch this play out. But apparently, I don't know what's really going on 100% with these polygraphs. Who's actually done one and who's passed? I couldn't tell you. But as far as I'm aware, Chris was supposedly down to do one with the TBI, so he said. Seth apparently did do one, but we don't know if he passed it, and you know, he was having problems with that. And then there has been, and I don't know if you watched this the other day, but I made a video, I think it was yesterday, and there were allegations in 2016 that, and I think Sebastian would have been about 8. I'm going to pull that up now, and I'm going to just read a couple of lines. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I think I'd be here all night. But it was basically when his mum and dad were together, there was issues when they started deciding that they were going to split up, and Seth had basically said that the only way she could really get him out of the house was if she put in a DV order or something, and then that way she'd be able to get him out of the house. But there was accusations from Katie that he was leaving Sebastian in the house on his own when he was young, that he was coming in, slamming doors that were breaking, that he was lifting Sebastian up, hit him in the head and neck and back and all this kind of stuff. And I made a video on it yesterday where Katie was basically suggesting that Sebastian had PTSD because of the breakup between the pair. I mean, he's going to be extra sensitive, obviously, because he's autistic, but there was a breakup between the pair. His mum and dad were breaking up. Katie was saying that Seth was telling Sebastian, your mummy doesn't love me anymore. And she was going to the doctors, asking the doctor to help get Sebastian on some kind of counselling or whatever, meds, because he had PTSD from the breakup. So if you haven't watched that video, I made that yesterday. That was really interesting. All the allegations in there from Katie from 2016. But there has been a shift in the focus of the suspects. So for the last however many weeks, everybody's been kind of pegging Chris and Katie. I mean, why not? They were the last people to see him as the main suspects. But now, since Seth has kind of, the allegations have come from Katie about the previous DV incidents, and he came out and started telling everyone to F off. People are now commenting in my comment section under some of my videos that they feel Seth's involved. So I don't know. I do have another video, audio for you in a second. But what I do find interesting is in the 2016 DV report from Katie, she makes note of a lot of incidents where Seth apparently hit Sebastian. Okay. And she documents this in the restraining order. What I'm interested in is there was absolutely no reaction in Katie's face when recently on TV, Chris Proudfoot admitted to hitting Sebastian. If Chris Proudfoot was hitting Sebastian, is that allowed, but his own dad wasn't allowed to? I mean, I'm not saying it's right either way. What I'm trying to say is, when it was a problem when Seth, his own dad, was apparently trying to, chastise him, but apparently he's not okay for, it's okay for Chris to do it, and with a belt. apparently. But I'm gonna play something for you, and it's really gonna make you think now, because I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna let you see what you think to it.
Well, there was a couple times my son would get frustrated on days that I was that I was taking him back to his mom's, and I don't want to go back. I hate going there. Well, he's a kid. I understand. I don't like to leave my house either. But when I asked him about it, he wouldn't tell me.
Right. So Sebastian was telling his dad he didn't want to go home. Okay. Why didn't he want to go home? Was there something going on in the house? And Chris did admit that he had hit Sebastian once, but did he hit him more than once? Okay, listen to this.
I want to find out about Mr. Proudfoot hitting Sebastian with a belt.
That was actually several years ago, and it
To
was
Mr. Proudfoot. To Mr. Proudfoot.
Sebastian had gotten in trouble. He got caught lying, and I had asked him. I said, "Hey, you got to have a punishment for this." He says, "Yes, sir." And I said, "Okay." So I gave him a swat with a belt on his buttocks on the outside of his clothes. One swat.
What did he lie about?
I honestly don't remember at the time, but
I think I remember. Isn't it something to do with him accusing Chris of hitting him?
I honestly don't remember at the time, but it was probably something dealing with school, because that's the majority where his issue.
Probably going to school and telling school that his stepdad had touched
school, because that's the majority where his issues lie. Years ago, ma'am.
And it apparently happened years ago, right?
Years ago, ma'am. It probably at least 3 years ago.
I don't understand how that turned into a CPS or Child Protective Services complaint.
That did not turn into a CPS service call.
Have you ever had CPS called on you before?
Yes. Sebastian went to school one day. We were at the house. He got in trouble. He didn't have a belt on. I was like, "Where's your belt?" And he got it. Whack. Got it. Whack. Got him. So he goes to school and he tells the teacher. They're mandatory reporters. So the teacher reports it. That afternoon, CPS shows up to the house. Now, mind you, 15-year-old child.
So if he's 15-year-old child, then it wasn't 3 years ago, was it? If he goes to school and tells the teacher something and lies, then it didn't happen 3 years ago, did it?
Mandatory reporters. So the teacher reports it. That afternoon, CPS shows up to the house. Now, mind you, 15-year-old child. Years ago, ma'am. It probably at least 3 years ago. I knew.
3 years ago, really?
3 years ago. I knew. 15-year-old child, not real happy because he's in trouble, so he's being punished.
So, yeah, he's in trouble because he gets punished by his stepdad, apparently goes to school, tells the teacher. The teacher then gets in touch with CPS because she's a mandated reporter. She then, CPS come out to the house, want to speak to Chris. Chris explains what happened. This was 3 years ago. So why did you say, well, 15-year-old child, they lie, 15-year-old child? Well, if he was 15, which is what he is now, then it wasn't 3 years ago that he was reported to CPS for Sebastian, was it? So, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Where's that comment? That's what I think too. So why are you going on one channel and saying you got reported to CPS for Sebastian 3 years ago, but then you're going on Smiley's channel and telling her that he was 15 when you got the problem with CPS? Honestly, what you need to keep your story straight. If you're gonna not tell the truth, you need to keep your story straight, because you just look stupid, and then you wonder why people are getting on the internet and talking about you in a negative light. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel, and I'm getting angry now, and I don't get angry very often, but he needs to be found. He's been missing now for 50 odd days. Start talking, start telling the bloody truth, and let's find him. Ugh. Oh my God. Just listening to that audio starts me off. Oh my gosh. So, anyway, let me just calm down. Ugh. But I mean, teenagers, yeah? They're teenagers. I've got a 15-year-old. I know what teenagers are like. They have anger, frustration. They don't know how to they're becoming an adult. They're feeling their feet. They're becoming who they are. They're working out what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. And I'm sure he said or did things that pissed them off at times. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think?
You're talking about regulating their emotions. And, you know, when I think of Sebastian, up until we saw that video of his actual voice and demeanor, I really could not grasp on the spectrum where he lies. You know, when you're listening to Katie and Chris, he's more of a mind of a younger child than 15-year-old. But if you're listening to Steph, he is smart and more of a teenager. So when you look at this case and you listen to what law enforcement says, you know, I just want to know, what was he like? Was he capable of directions? Did he know money? Did he know how to survive daily basic things? And when you think of anger issues, did he act out of anger and frustration because he's agitated and antsy? You know, those are things that I think of, his demeanor, you know, and if what medications would affect his mood, you know.
Yeah, somebody's put here, Seth probably has a temper too, you know, and I mean, we all do, don't we? We all have a bit of a temper, and it just depends on some people manage to suppress it, and it doesn't come out very often, whereas other people, you only have to look at them in the wrong direction and they're like, you know. But what actually went on in that home, only he knows. And he's not here to tell us. And it's just unfortunate, you know. He went to school and he told his teacher, I would love to interview that teacher. I would
Absolutely.
love to find out what he said to them.
I agree with that.
And it's sad that Seth didn't even know about the CPS case between Chris and Sebastian. He didn't even know. He found out on the internet after listening to that interview that I played a minute ago. He heard that, and that's how he found out that his own child that with the stepdad. How bad? I mean, me and Penny's dad weren't always in the best of situations, but I always told him what was going on. Mind you, I suppose if it makes the stepdad look bad, then I suppose she might have kept it quiet for that reason. Yeah. What else have I got here? So like you said before, Christina, Katie is the key, basically. She knows what happened, and really, until she starts telling us what happened, it's unknown what they're going to be able to find to prove anything otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you go back to that day. Okay, if he was going to run away, I'm looking at this house and I'm thinking, okay, he didn't take a cell phone. Would he have taken his cell phone? Because boys don't always talk on the phone. But I will never understand to this day, why is Katie so adamant about him not wearing shoes? That just seems like the hill she's going to die on. She wants to argue these shoes, and I don't understand, and I can't wrap my head around that. I don't know what kid, except younger kids, my younger daughters will walk out of the house without shoes. But if they were going away from the house and they knew they were going to leave the yard, they absolutely would wear their shoes.
Yeah.
So,
and then we've had the crazy people. Just changing the subject for a minute. We've had the crazy people coming out. We get them in every case, don't we? But we've had the crazy guy that's been messaging everybody saying that he's got Sebastian and he needs money to give a present. Send a present to Sebastian. Send $100. You know, I mean, he only needs to be talking to a few people, and he's got $300. Like, are people actually believing him? And he's sending them like photoshopped photos, trying to prove that he's got Sebastian there. Why would any normal, well, not normal, but why would anybody insert themselves into a child's case pretending you have this missing child when he could? And I know this sounds horrible, guys, but he could be laid dead somewhere. And he's pretending that he has the boy there. And I'm guessing he hasn't, because otherwise he would have been found by now. It's just bewilders me. I don't know where people's heads are at. I don't know if it's the that short of money that they would literally do anything or what, but it's bad. That's just so bad. So what else have I got here? Oh, I don't know if you've heard about this, but let's have a look. I was looking at this channel. It was called News Channel Nashville, okay, and it was saying that while the search continues for Sebastian, they're looking at this other high-profile case. It was a very similar case involving Joe Clyde Daniels, and they might have learned from Joe Clyde Daniels what they might have learned from Joe Clyde Daniels that could help search for Sebastian. The 5-year-old Joe Clyde disappeared from his Dickinson County home in 2018, never been found, and some of the same people who looked for him are now also looking for Sebastian. 5-year-old Joe was autistic as well, and was said to have wandered off from his home, just like this case, at night, barefoot and in his pajamas. How many similarities are there so far? Crazy. And it said that 6 years ago, this month, and a massive search, but nothing was found. And the main focus is finding where he's at, his remains, or if he's alive. We hope we find him alive. But now consider 15-year-old Sebastian, also autistic, and said to have left his home in Hendersonville at night barefoot and with a flashlight 2 months ago. A massive search and nothing has been found. Same as with Joe Clyde. And in the absence of any information, what we will continue to do is go back over everything we've done and give it a new set of eyes. Much like Sebastian, there was no physical evidence to explain Joe Clyde's disappearance, and you may recall this case quickly turned criminal. The key difference is his father confessed to killing him. Oh, God, awful. He quickly recanted that confession, though, but was still found guilty at trial. Why did I kill my son? ? Why did I kill my son? He apparently said in the video confession. played at trial in 2021. Joe Clyde's body still has not been found, and legal experts say his father would have never been convicted without the confession. So it just shows you, if he hadn't confessed, they would have never have got a conviction. If these two don't come forward and tell us something we don't already know, will we ever find Sebastian? Is it going to be another Joe Clyde case? But despite hours of interviews with those close to Sebastian, there is no confession, there's no physical evidence, no new leads. And they're just saying, if anything is to be learned from Joe Clyde's case, is that if someone who knows something doesn't, it's possible Sebastian's case could never be solved too. And that's just concerning. That's really concerning. Have you heard about this Joe Clyde case, Christina?
I have not. It's interesting, though, that the cops didn't press the father to say, okay, if you did kill him, take his life, where is his body? I would want his remains. I would want proof, evidence. I mean,
Well,
if
yeah.
I'm his lawyer, I'm not, since I don't know all the facts of the case. I mean, we all know he probably is guilty, but why would not he tell them how a manner of death, or where his son was? I mean, where is the other family members, or his wife, the mom, you know, where do they stand in all this? You know, did he act alone? I mean,
the one thing that came to me when I read that story, and I'll be honest with you, I read that story and I sat back and I was thinking about it, all the similarities. The first thing that came to me was, if I was planning a murder, okay, if I was planning a murder, and obviously I've never done it before, I want to get away with it, right? I don't want to get found out. I want to be able to hide them. I want them to never be found, and I want to get away with it. They're the main things that you want to take from it when you commit something like that. I'm guessing. I've never committed a murder, but I'm just saying. Would you not look into cases like that where they have never been found, and if it wasn't for a confession, they would have never have had they would have never been able to arrest anyone? Would you not look back into cases like that to try and find one that you could kind of mirror in order to get away with it yourself?
I can't speak for active cases, but cold cases, I would think, you know, I know Jennifer Coffendorfer rubs people the wrong way, but the first things that me and she agreed on of the Proudfoots, if the police and the TBI would have just done polygraph tests on both of them for further investigation, treat them as a hostile witness, we might not be here today. No evidence, no proof of life. Because there was this, when I look at those videos and listen to the language being spoken by Mr. Proudfoot, there's no love for his stepson. The wordings, the body language, him looking at her, and I think I watched your video where you said they do a cough, like a signal. But the emotions that Katie is speaking about and acting don't match somebody that she acts detached from the situation. Like, you know, she's not present. Like, are you under an influence of something? I mean,
yeah, she does. She does. But sorry, you're breaking up a bit, Christina. I've got some homework for you guys. do this and check this out and come back to me and tell me if you notice this, right? And I think I put this on my community page before, but if you go back and watch any of those initial videos with the parent, Katie, and the stepfather, you watch and you'll notice that they cough at each other as a signal to stop whatever it is they're talking about or change direction. That was just something I noticed, and it's what I felt was going on. I'm not saying that is exactly what was happening, but as far as I could see, that's what I felt was happening. It was like Katie would start going down a line of saying something, and then he'd cough, and she kind of like side eye him, and then like change what she was saying. Did you notice that, Christina? Or was it just me?
I noticed every little thing, but what got me that initial interview, because, well, I'll take you back to what the the law enforcement sheriff said. When he was doing the initial interview, it was a week, 5 days before this parents, the Proudfoot spoke out publicly. And I didn't think nothing about that because I figured they're distraught, they're worried, you know, they're out there searching. I naturally assumed that, you know. But when he hesitated about the shoes and they're cooperating, but he is very careful in how he words things. And when you look at the interviews, Chris kept staring over at Katie when she's speaking. That I'm trying to listen to her, and he's just looking and turning his head toward her. That is so, to me, distracting.
Yeah.
Signal
yeah.
of something going on. At the time, you know, I'm subconsciously not thinking these parents have any guilt, because I do have some experience with autism kids. So at this point, I'm holding that faith that, oh, he did just disappear. This isn't exactly what the police believe it is.
But after 50 days, Christina, if he'd walked down the street, how far could you get on foot in the middle of the night before somebody would see you and say, what are you doing? Even if you're in a field, what would you do? No food, no water. You'd have to have communication with somebody, whether it was in a shop, whether it was a neighbor, whether it was some random person in a car. Like, somebody would have seen him. Some taxi driver would have seen him. Somebody would have said something. So he didn't just disappear, I don't think, out of that house. He didn't just leave out of that door. And there was something Mum said when I was watching an interview today, and she said, I can't understand why he just walked out of that door. It was like she was telling us that, and so we needed to kind of believe that that's what happened. Like, she was telling the story. He walked out of that door. How do we know he walked out of that door? I mean,
exactly.
I'll tell you my honest theory in this case, and some people won't like it. I don't care, but it's my opinion, okay? He went to school. He told the teacher. Why else, right? Why else would he lie about this? And I've already played the lie for you. Mm-hmm. Why? I think he went to school. He told a teacher that Chris had hit him or done something to him. I think the CPS got involved. It caused a lot of arguments at home between him and Katie. The marriage was on the rocks because of Sebastian. He spoke to Seth, organising for Sebastian to start going and either living there full time or 50-50. I'm not quite sure what the arrangement was. It was supposed to be in a month's time. But in that month's time, something else happened, or they had an argument, or something happened. And I think he was frustrated. I think Katie fell asleep on the phone. And I think he left the phone where it was. I think he drove back. I think he got Sebastian and took him somewhere. And I think that is why Katie doesn't really know. Having said that, maybe she does. And that's why she's going to the bike shop and she's going out. She's leaving and going to stay in this trailer with him in this Yogi Bear campground, because No woman with a missing child is going to leave her home for any period of time knowing that her child has walked out of that door, in brackets, walked out of that door, hoping he was going to come back. They know where he is as far as I'm concerned. That's just my opinion. I think he walked out. They're putting that narrative out that he walked out. I think he came and got him and took him somewhere. I don't know where. I've no idea. But that's just my opinion. And I think it's all to do with Sebastian going to school. Why else would he tell one YouTuber that the CPS report involving involving Sebastian was 3 years ago, and then telling another one that it was when he was 15? I'm going to play it again for anybody who didn't hear it the first time.
I want to find out about Mr. Proudfoot hitting Sebastian with a belt.
That was actually several years ago, and it
To
was
Mr. Proudfoot. To Mr. Proudfoot.
Sebastian had gotten in trouble. He got caught lying, and I had asked him. I said, "Hey, you got to have a punishment for this." He says, "Yes, sir." And I said, "Okay." So I gave him a swat with a belt on his buttocks on the outside of his clothes. One swat.
What did he lie about?
I honestly don't remember at the time, but it was probably something dealing with school, because that's majority where his issues lie. Years ago, ma'am.
Years ago. Yeah, okay.
It probably at least 3 years ago.
I don't understand how that turned into a CPS or Child Protective Services complaint.
That did not turn into a CPS or service call.
Have you ever had CPS called on you before?
Yes. Smashed him in skull one day. We were at the house. He got in trouble. He didn't have a belt on. I was like, "Where's your belt?" And he got it. Whack. Got it. Whack. Got him. So he goes to school and he tells the teacher. They're mandatory reporters. So the teacher reports it. That afternoon, CPS shows up to the house. Now, mind you, 15-year-old child.
So his 15-year-old child, 15-year-old, Sebastian's a 15-year-old when the CPS came to the house about him swatting Sebastian. But he's telling another YouTuber that it was 3 years ago. It wasn't 3 years ago. Get your stories right. I honestly think that that's what happened. I think they were arguing a lot. I think the marriage was on the rocks. I think Chris felt threatened. I think he's controlling. And I think he felt that he was about to lose his wife, his home, everything because of this boy. Because of this boy that wasn't his. He didn't feel any love for him. I think he saw him as a object in his path for happiness. I think he was annoying him. I don't think he liked him. I don't think he wanted him there. And, I think that he came and took him in the middle of the night. I honestly do. And I don't know whether Katie fell asleep and he left his phone as an alibi and drove over and got him, or what. But I'd be interested to know, did they look at his car? Does his car have some kind of tracking device in it? Have they taken his phone? Have they looked at all of Sebastian's electronics? I don't know, but I just feel that they may have dropped the ball very early on. I can see a lot of lies coming out, and I just wish he was found already. I really do. Have you got any more thoughts on this, Christina?
Well, I do. I'll tell you a story. My stepson is nonverbal autistic. No, he can do things on his own, but he is drawn to his routine, and he is very much puts his shoes in the same spot. No matter where he comes in the house, he will go right to the front door, kick his shoes off. They stay right there. He's particular. Goes to bed and takes his medicine and sleeps and does not wake up the whole entire night. they keep saying Sebastian is all about his routine. Well, one day, my stepson and I had my nephews who were a little bit younger than, they were 12 and 13, and it was summertime, and my stepson went to go take a nap. Went out to the backyard to put my dog on the leash, and my nephews were playing Nintendo, and I said, where did Nick go? And they go, oh, he went downstairs. And then, okay, so he took a nap. Cool. Well, then an hour later, I didn't see him, and they come running out and said he took off. Nick left. They thought he had left. All he had done was go to the bathroom. But I panicked myself. I went downstairs automatically thinking he took off. And I called the police right away and told them, because he's nonverbal. If he's on foot, they said, okay, they asked me his description, and I told them. And I live on a busy road. Now, that detective came to our house. They had 50 cops within 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
we've got Mike here, Christina. Sorry, carry on, Christina. I'm just saying hi to Mike.
Oh, hello.
Salute, ladies. Salute. Good. I'm just listening to you. I'm listening to you.
And this detective goes, let's go back to where it all began. Where did you say he was at? I said he was sleeping in his bed, taking a nap. We went downstairs to the room he was at, and lo and behold, there he was, sound asleep under the covers.
Oh, thank God.
Now, I myself
That's brilliant.
Panicked myself to the core, because I did not realize.
Must be an awful feeling.
In my panic, I did not see. I didn't even think. I didn't even go to the bed to make sure. I just looked, because you're like, oh yeah, it looked like nobody was laying there.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy. But I'm pleased he was found.
But that police officer gave such a good reason why what he was doing. He always let me know, and to have that presence of all that. I mean, I can chuckle about it now. Like, I created this mass hysteria.
Yeah, but it's good that you were that keen to,
sure,
look for him.
So
and sorry.
Hi, Mike.
Hey,
no, carry on, Mike.
There's things. So if you're I was an investigator. So if you investigate or a detective or anything like that in law enforcement, you read people's energy, right? And like you said, you got erratic. Remember losing your child for 60 seconds in the grocery store, right? And you're flipping out. You're going crazy. That's a loving parent. But when we would see people that their child missed and they're like, I don't know. That's guilty as hell. So a lot of these people, when something happens to their children, they're like, okay, well, we'll figure it out. No, a parent who is not guilty will flip out. It's normal behavior for a parent to flip out, because they're trying to figure out where's my kid at. But there's cases where a child is missing and they're like cool as a cucumber. That's not normal behavior. And that's all I'm trying to say. It sends red flags off. You're not trying to have someone jump off the roof. Now, there are some men or some women that are stoic. If you know what stoic is, they're hiding their grief, but at one point they're going to break and they're going to show that they are basically in peril. Let me tell you something. My kids are my life. They're my life, and if my kids were missing, I'd be going crazy. So I can't understand or comprehend how some parents who allegedly have their children taken under nefarious reasons are cool as a cucumber. Why?
No.
Because 99% of the times, they're the ones who did it.
Yeah. And I mean, you know what I do for a living? I'm a paramedic, and I've said to people before, you know, I've diagnosed death for some of these people, and I go to the relatives, and the most normal thing people do is cry or scream, or, you know, they're so upset and they're like, no, no, you know. And then there's the odd person, I'd say, you know, like, 1% that will just carry on as normal and start opening their mail. Oh, I've been waiting for this to arrive. And you're like, huh? You know, but they can only do that for so long. That's just a distraction.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. You said it perfectly. There's a breaking point. In other words, you can hide your grief for only so long, is what you're saying, basically.
Yeah.
Did you take psychology?
Yeah.
Me too. So, you know, and I understand what you're saying. You can only hide everybody listening, you can hide your grief for only so long. And there's a breaking point. You're going to break, and you're going to basically admit grief or guilt will weigh on you like a weight on your shoulders, right? It's going to weigh on you. It's going to push you down. Yeah. And I'm sorry to cut you off, young lady. I think you're exactly right. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was also going to bring up, I'm a veteran, and the fact that the Proudfoots are veterans. I want to talk about PTSD. I don't know exactly if Chris, they give you a psychological profile when you enter, and
sure,
if he's ever went to combat, I never had to go, but the training in the PTSD that you come back with, you know, would create him to not have emotions, but you would still know what that child's doing if you had a personal relationship with that child. You know, I don't care if he's went to war 10 times, you come back, you have that relationship with your kids.
Yeah. I've got two questions for Mike, actually. The first one is, I don't know if, have you been listening for a while? What we've been talking about?
I literally came on your channel. I literally saw your channel today, so this is my first time.
Well, I played an audio about 10 minutes ago where apparently Chris had said that the CPS was called, and it was about 3 years ago, to do with Sebastian. But then he's saying, oh, it was when he was 15. What did you notice that? What do you think about that? Do you think he was lying? Or?
He's definitely lying. So it's basically switching up the story. So in other words, the truth, when you tell the truth, it never changes, right? But when you lie, it changes. So definitely lying. And unfortunately, being prior law enforcement, and I work for the government now, but being prior law enforcement, you know, CPS is really just, I mean, some of the CPS people care and some don't. They just don't. They don't follow up. I've met CPS people that will literally be like pit bulls, that will go after, and they'll follow up, and they'll make it their mission to save that child. And there's other CPS people that really don't care. They take the report and then they move on because I got 50 reports, and it depends on where you live. If you live in a remote area, right? Yeah. They should have more emphasis on the cases. Like where I live in a very high density place. But there's a lot of CPS agents, but you know, crimes against children breed into violence, future violence. And that's what it is. We have to love our kids, we have to nurture our kids. But the children that are emotionally disturbed or abused, an abuser will abuse somebody else. Does that make sense, ladies?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a foster parent for 5 years, and I can tell you, I can recognize the signs of kids that's been in the system. It changes them. Kids are resilient.
Exactly.
And parents all have that same MO. They are not present. They came from it. A lot of these CPS workers also come from abuse. That's why they want to help.
It's a calling. It's a calling. And the same thing, like a lot of police officers will go into, that line of work because they were wrong. They were bullied. Now, people say that a lot of cops are bullies. A lot of police officers are not. They're actually there to help. They're trying to reverse. Let me tell you something. There's something very important in psychology. If you are abused or if you are put down, you have two ways to go about it. You can perpetuate the abuse, or you can break the cycle of abuse. That's the two things that you can do. And it's up to you to figure out what you want to do. But abusers abuse other people. But there are people that have been abused that break the cycle, and they become the best counselors, the best people you've ever seen. But they have to know that pain. They have to know that pain to break the cycle. What do you think?
I agree with that.
I agree. I was going to ask you a second question, and that was, I wanted to know what you think happened to Sebastian, in your opinion.
It's too early to tell, but I mean, there's definitely some nefarious stuff going on. I think the parents definitely know what happened. I'm not sure if maybe the parents maybe have mental illness, and maybe snapped out and hurt the child, and then they covered it up. But there's so many unanswered questions in the case. It's not open and closed. There's so much, but it seems like, I don't know, because wasn't he special needs? Wasn't he special needs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a special needs child, it's very stressful. No, I'm just telling you, it's very stressful. Okay. And you may get tested on your stress level. So maybe, I don't know this, allegedly, he had a something happen, and maybe the parent did something, to the child, and then maybe, allegedly, reacted a bad way, and now they're trying to cover it up. That's what it seems like to me, because this is the weirdest case I've seen in a very long time. There's so many, unanswered questions,
Yeah.
and then the way that they didn't care, it's like, okay, well, my kid's gone. Oh, well, he'll turn up. Yo, I would be jumping off the roof if my kid was missing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I wouldn't be, certainly not going to Yogi Bear campground. Absolutely not. I'd be lucky if you get me to the end of the street, to be honest.
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even speak. My children are everything, but it seems like they don't even care. It's like they wrote the kid off years ago. Like, in other words, it was just like something in the house. The love is gone. You know what I'm saying? I can't figure out how they can be so stoic.
Yeah.
And my son he's 23. I'll talk to him every day and say, son, I love you so much. He's a grown man, but I want him to know.
You never know when the next time is that you're going to speak to them, do you? I mean, anything can happen. Christina, what do you think happened to Sebastian? Can I ask you that?
I'm with Mike on that. I would have to know what I'm one of them people. When I've done investigations, I want to go back to the house. I want to see, give me his routine. I have to know more about what Sebastian would or would not do. In order to find Sebastian, I want to know what he's drawn to. Does he draw, doodle? What are his habits? Where would he go when he's feeling anxious? Does he have some place that he goes? Is he drawn to water? Is he drawn to the rail yards? I mean, we mix information, but if he knew his way out of the neighborhood to his dad's, I would think he would know how to make a phone call or get somebody to help him. He seemed like he was pretty smart in that video, but that was only a small portion. He was pretty aware of what that Chris Proudfoot's sister was doing. Hey, I need you over here playing this game with me. You know, he seems like he calls you out on your actions and behavior. So he seemed pretty observant to me in that
Yeah.
bit. I need to know exactly what he like. I'm
What?
even
Yeah.
okay, Katie. You said you went to the store. I know my mind goes, okay, let me see, what did you buy? Why aren't the police seeing what she purchased? Because if there's no evidence, I'm going back to this receipt. Cops, I'm looking in that fridge. Okay, what did you buy?
Mhm.
I know this sounds silly, but I'm like, okay, did you buy for Sebastian? Does he take his lunch? I want to see proof that if I'm checking out Katie and her alibi and she's telling me the truth, now I have no idea. I'm going to ask you until it all makes sense to me.
Yeah, you need it to make sense. It's like you need to be one of the officers that have questioned them to get all the information to kind of know exactly which line you're going to go down.
Yeah.
And you need to keep all your options open, don't you? And don't be writing anybody off too soon. Which I did notice people have taken sides on this case from the very beginning, just from the comments that I've seen, you know, on under my videos and on my community page. You could tell that people were siding, and now it's kind of changing a little bit. Who knows? I mean, we only get a snippet of the information that they will have, and let's hope that they do have a lot more than we have, and that they have looked into a lot of these things that we have been questioning also.
You can't base guilt off of opinion or your emotions. It has to
No,
be evidentiary. You know, we don't have any evidentiary evidence against any one particular person. So that's why
no,
you go back to the location and and then expand, because in the simplest ideas, what if he went to the school and got locked out and he's in the cellar, or he's hiding somewhere in the school? Nobody's ever looked at the school, and that was somewhere I thought, where would he go if he was at school? He's a safe
yeah,
place. I go to my counselors. You know, he has a whole
yeah.
life. Parents
Well,
made
I
Yeah.
him.
mean, a lot of the information that they get is important. I mean, look at the Elijah View case that I've just been covering as well. He was in a room where he apparently left. They're trying to make out like a bit like Sebastian. He just left. Okay, he was 2. He was in a room with a deadlock. He's 2. Was he 2? 2. And apparently he just managed to leave on his own. Yeah, right. What, with a deadlock and a bolt and a door handle and everything else? Yeah, right. You know, a lot of the information that we don't
The, yeah.
see.
The one is one of the biggest things in a biggest investigation is repetitory behavior. So what you were saying is right. In other words, go to where they're going to feel the safest. Go to their go-to place, you know, and I don't feel like they're doing that. It's almost like they're ignoring it, you know, and they're going to like the woods. I mean, somebody who has special needs is not going to go walk 5 miles. They're not going to do it, you know. So
They have no sense. Like, my stepson is autistic. He has no fear or sense of danger. He's going to get hurt out in traffic. Somebody's going to hit him because he doesn't know any better. You can't look at him until you address him. But the cops did say they got alerted by a dispatch woman. Hey, he's special needs. You need to approach him completely different in this case. You cannot put him in the same category as a runaway or somebody that disappeared. You have to do it in a special needs way. Think like they do. So I
Yeah.
gained a lot of insight to that from this case. And I thought, wow, I was so adamant they were going to find him, because the way the sheriff talked, it sounded like he was so on it. and nothing. So I'm so disappointed in this case because they may have missed clues or overlooked them, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you do search and rescue, it is very difficult because you set up a radius, and it's usually a 5 mile radius. That's usually what you do, and but it's so much. 5 miles is it's a lot of land to cover. But a lot of times, the person was right next to you, but you didn't see it. You're searching out here, but the person could be, like you said, in the school. They could be right close to you. But it's just this entire case screams to me of corruption and like with the parents. And something is not right. It's just something is just definitely fishy here. You know, for someone,
Yeah.
let me tell you something. For someone to leave, like if someone has special needs, or even if they're not even special needs, for someone that has no car, that has no money, to just to leave, they're going to find you. You're not going to travel more than a mile or two. They're going to find you. So how did this person just disappear? Is the question.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many cases like this, like the Summer Wells case, Elijah View, where the parents are adamant that they just disappeared. People don't just disappear, especially 2-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 15-year-olds, a little bit more likely than to disappear, but still is an autistic child. Children don't just disappear. You know, how long are they going to try and keep pushing this and expect people to believe it and to go along with it and to believe it? I just don't understand, to be honest.
Especially this day and age with technology, you know. Okay, so they didn't have their cameras hooked up or whatever, but nobody did. He didn't get out to the street and out of his neighborhood, and he's not on anybody's camera whatsoever. That sends a signal to me that, hey, something's not right here. Why would
Okay,
he?
so I'm going to give you my assertion if you don't mind. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm going to give you my assertion. I believe there was an acquaintance of the family that had him come into a vehicle, and he's gone. In other words,
Like
he didn't just walk out. He didn't just walk out the door. You know, he was not kidnapped, but he basically somebody that the family knew. He got into a car and was gone. And I don't think he's going to be so I don't know where he is, but it wasn't like he just wandered off. It doesn't happen that way. So if you have a runaway, especially special needs or teenager or a young child, a runaway, you're going to find them because they're not going to go very far. They're going to get tired. They're going to get hungry. They're not going to run 5 miles. You know how long 5 miles is? That's long. All right. So somebody was complacent in taking this young man away, most likely in a vehicle. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it screams of someone taking this person away. And he wouldn't get into a vehicle for someone that he didn't know. You know,
I think he was carried.
Special needs or not, they're not just going to get in someone's car. It has to be someone that he was accustomed to, an acquaintance, a family member, you know, a family friend, and now the person's gone. You know, I've worked stuff like this before, and it's rare, but it does happen. Sometimes people that have mental illness will wander into traffic, but like 99.9% of the people are going to call the police and have that person taken back home. But to disappear like this, there's someone that knows that family, that knows him, that orchestrated this. What do you think?
I've heard that Chris Proudfoot's parents, from his ex-wife Nina, he is friends with the sheriff's department. And that's the
I heard that. I think he was carried out though. I think he was carried out because he didn't have any shoes on, did he? Which and there was a noise in the room. She heard a bang, she didn't go and check it out. So she says, I think it was somebody that he knew with an altercation, and I think he was carried out, which is why there's no shoes missing.
I don't believe he even, maybe he didn't even come home from the restaurant that night. Maybe Katie met up with somebody at that place and took Sebastian, and she came, and then she fabricated maybe the whole story. I don't know. That
and that's a viable theory, you know. The whole thing is that you really don't know, you know, how this theory can go so many different ways. I thought on this. I sat and I thought on this case. I was on another channel and we were talking about it, you know, and for one, I feel the parents know what happened to them. I mean, and I could be completely wrong because I'm a parent. I love my children, but there are bad parents out there. But something doesn't make sense. The way that the mother acted after he disappeared was completely different than I would have acted. Now, like I said, people act differently in grief. But for some reason, to me, the parents, to me, scream like they're involved. That's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. You know, this is allegedly. But if my child was missing, I wouldn't be like, yeah, whatever, you know, he'll show up. No, I'd be going crazy, you know. But it seems like maybe they wanted to, you know, basically part ways with this beautiful child. I don't know. It's the craziest thing. I can't figure it out. And how can anyone turn their back on their child, not love their child? Like, if my child had needs, I'd love him or her more, not less. It's just the weirdest thing. I don't know. It's just, but this case is very interesting, and it's good that we're talking about it, because I think the more we talk about it, the more light it's going to bring to the case, and maybe get them to investigate it more. You know, because there's so many cases out here that just get forgotten about. You know, whatever. No, we need to figure out what happened. You know, not get obsessed about it, but figure out what is the root. What happened here? Go ahead, ladies.
Something that Nina pointed about Katie's character, and she was just telling her side of the story. She was giving an interview to Trevor, one of the other channel creators, and I was listening to her. She said something in the course of her dealing with Katie herself. She mentioned Katie was right there videoing, filming her and Chris's conversations. As usual, she wasn't trying to speak on anything. She was just saying, and there's Katie. I found that very interesting. So you put that prior knowledge, now you fast forward, you have a missing son, and you work for Brinks, and you're an installer for cameras, and you didn't have any that night, or they weren't plugged in, you know. But then ex-wife, she has no reason to believe you wouldn't have cameras, a Ring camera at the very least, you know. She brought up something that this is your MO. You film all the time. So that particular night, you did not, Katie. You know, those types of things have to be questioned when you're police. I believe they have enough evidence to treat these adults, as hostile witnesses. Because if you're operating, you're not asking the right questions. I go back to, I want to know, what did you purchase at BJ's store? Because they could have bought a second burner phone. They could have bought a pair of tennis shoes. They could have bought extra food for Sebastian. Hey, we're going to put him over here because we don't want his father to get. Could be a power between
everything they do leading up to it is a possible is evidence, isn't it? And but I just wanted to say hi, Justin for all. If you haven't checked his channel out, is in the comment section. Hi Justin, he's my friend, he's got a channel and he's great. So I think somebody's dropped his I can see it, yeah, his link in there. Go across and watch him. He's also covering Sebastian as well. And he goes live a lot more often than I do, so you can go and check him out when I'm not live. But yeah, nice to see you in here. Nice to see everybody, actually. Thank you for everybody tuning in. And thank you, Mike and Christina, for coming and chatting with me. It's really nice to get other people's ideas on what could have happened. And just talking about it, you get a lot of ideas that I hadn't thought about, to be honest, because everybody sees things differently, don't they?
Sure, no doubt.
Yeah.
You know, and there's something called burden of truth. So basically, what the young lady was saying is basically their actions kind of are telling everyone that they're guilty, because the way that they're acting on this entire interaction, they're looking guiltier and guiltier. You know, it's just to me they look guilty as hell. That's just me. That's my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and if I'm wrong, I will apologize to them. But everything leading up to this case, they seem very guilty. Go ahead.
I agree. Were you going to say something, Christina?
Oh, I was just listening. I did not report because, you know, my 5 years with CPS as a foster parent, I saw both sides. And my personal family history, my sister lost her children. When there is violence in the home reported, CPS will remove the child. And then something else, I guarantee you, if Chris has an anger issue, and let's say Katie got reported by school, and then he's trying to get custody of his daughter, and this gets jeopardized.
Yes.
His opportunity to get his daughter, he's going to be mad as hell.
Oh my God. That goes with my theory.
That absolutely keep me thinking it has to be motive. Chris has said everything opposite. Hey, I have a CPS case. I'm trying to get it sealed. What if that case is against Sebastian and he knows it's for him, and he's going to jeopardize his
case against Nina? And yes, because I was saying before about my theory and what I thought, and I was saying that, you know, I think that because he went to school and told the teacher, and the teacher then got CPS involved, and CPS came to the house, and it caused a lot of problems between him and Katie maybe, and he didn't like, or he was very frustrated or angry or whatever with Sebastian. We don't know. The sheriff's office, TBI, need to look into what the case was with him and his ex-wife Nina, because if the CPS case was going the wrong way for him with Nina trying to get his other child, then maybe that would have made him even more angry with Sebastian for going to school and getting CPS involved with them.
Absolutely. It can jeopardize something of importance to either Chris or Katie. It could have even been an accident, like something got out of hand. He lost his temper, thought, I need to calm down. We'll send him to his father's. Let's remove him completely, and we won't, while this is going on. Maybe that's why he was going to go. You know, we don't know because we weren't there. So I will never accuse them, but I feel it all ties in when you put it all together.
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting, because you put my theory on the table, you add what you've just said into it with his CPS case with Nina, and then what Mike's been saying as well. And you just think, well, I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything because I don't don't know what happened. I wasn't there, and none of us were there. But just, you know, talking it out and putting things together that we know, and it takes you along a path, and you think, well, I can't see any other way of him disappearing, to be honest. And
gossip. I don't know the gossip. But when the gossip and the drama happens in this case, that just speaks to the kid. Like, would he do that? Because, okay, I'm going to be out in my yard and I'm going to talk to my neighbors. What I want is we've heard from some of the neighbors. Where are the neighbors that would know Sebastian? I want to talk to home. He blew my mind when he was talking to another channel creator, Narc Diver. I'm a diver, so I followed these guys. I loved them. They're out there looking for him. But Chris gave precise directions. I don't know my neighborhood like the way Chris can describe a location. That is calculating to me. I would look into that a little further, because how would you know this brand new subdivision? You went and told this creator, yeah, this is the spot, you're gonna find it, and this is where the cops drain it, and look for him there. How would he know that for a man that is gone all month prior to him missing? How does he know that? He does not provide why he knows it or how he knows it, but I found it very telling. And those are the things that I'm looking at. I'm not looking at, well, 10 years ago, leading up to who he is. You know, I'm not going to judge any parent for ever losing their cool with a child, because we all kind of lose our temper and have to center ourselves. But when you look at a history of who Chris is and Katie are, and then this happens, and you look at all the other circumstances going on around them, somewhere along the line, you're going to find the truth. And I don't blame Steph 100% making amends for the sake of finding my child. I will go hunt.
No, I agree.
But he had my kid. I would not leave his sight. I would sleep with him. Where you going? If I thought they were the responsible party for my child missing, I'm going to haunt you in your sleep. You're not going to be able to go anywhere. I'm going to be there. I'm going to get a stalking charge. That's how adamant
What happened to Mike? Did you hear that strange noise and then he kind of just disappeared?
I didn't know if he lost signal or...
It was just like a... And then he disappeared. It was almost like he was having a heart attack or something, and then disappeared off the line. I hope he's okay. Anyway.
I hope you off, Mike. You were very, very...
It was interesting. He had some good points to make.
Absolutely. I mean, more professional opinion, and not just opinion, but professional perspective that you can get eyes. And there's nothing wrong with public opinion. Don't get me wrong. I love our theories because we're just parents and we're talking it out. But when you can get a perspective of what the cops, this investigation should look like, could look like, versus what it's become and is, that is the difference. That's why it explains why one police department can find all these missing children. You look at the sheriff department down in Florida, and then you look at the sheriff department here at the TBI. We have 2 cases now. Summer Wells is our heart of the case that you've covered extensively. What is the difference between this TBI case and Sebastian's case, and, you know, just the police department in general? Why are they different than anybody else searching for missing children, like Florida, for example? You know.
Well, We've covered quite a lot tonight, to be honest. We've been live for how long does it where does it tell me how long we've been live for?
I've been having so much fun listening and
I
talking.
know. Well, we've been live for 1 hour 45 minutes, so we've been live for quite a while. So I think I'm going to head to bed because Mum's coming in the morning. We're going to be doing some decorating, so I'm going to do that. But I really appreciate you coming on with that amazing hoodie, Christina. Thank you to Mike for also coming on. It's the best. It was just really nice. Yeah, I think everybody needs one of those, you know.
I do. We actually need another drawing, so maybe we should have one and feature this hoodie.
Oh, just in time. Just in time.
Yes. Bonfire season's coming up.
Right then. Well, I'm going to go to bed. So you take care. Everybody in the comment section, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to all of the mods for being there tonight. We never get too much trouble on this channel, but I do appreciate you all being there and checking out all the comments coming in. I really appreciate that. Thank you to all the new subs that have come in over the last few days, this last week, and are checking out the channel. We will be doing more lives, hopefully. I just have a bit of an anxiety problem when it comes to lives, so I don't tend to do many very often. But yeah, I'll be back with you again soon, guys. You take care. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye, 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 bye.